Thanks so much, Jeff. I really always have and still do find Always on SSL quite interesting, and I really am looking forward to that number of the encrypted downstream web traffic growing from more than 50% to beyond 70% in 2017. So we've covered quite a bit of some worrying yet important and vital information. But Jeff, before we end the discussion and move into questions, are you able to provide any semantic recommendations to the audience on how they can use the information in this Internet Security Threat Report to increase their web security and to instill trust?
Yes, absolutely. Boy, you haven't even gotten me to my slide. I'm already excited to do so. Look, before encryption effectively becomes a mandate, you and your organization still have time to stand apart from the crowd. Because there's a tally keeper in the SSL and TLS industry called Netcraft, and they found, listen to this, that nearly 20,000 blocked attacks in just one quarter of 2017, the first quarter of this year, used a valid SSL certificate. And that's so shocking, because the overwhelming majority of these sites contained no validation. The certificates had no validation of the organization running these sites, which means they were probably phony. We're talking about certificates that are known as domain validation or DV certificates. And they're the cheapest on the internet to buy because they can be processed immediately, simply because the amount of validation they do is practically none. All it tests for is that you have rights to control the domain where you're going to put that SSL certificate. There's no identity check as to who you are or what you mean or that you're a real business or have any sense of legitimacy. So for a website security to be effective, it has to be implemented carefully and deliberately and monitored and maintained, and must expand beyond just encryption. And actually beyond SSL and TLS certificates. Now you're going to see that model at the bottom that I presented before, and you can get your site there by aligning with what we've been talking about with Always on SSL and what the browsers are doing, Chrome and Firefox in particular, but also with so many industry standards which are now coming online, for example, the PCI. Or the payment card industry. You can disable deprecated and weak hashing algorithms. We saw the industry move beyond SHA-1, for example. You can implement Always on SSL, as I mentioned. You can use up-and-coming and very mobile-friendly and, frankly, millennial-friendly technologies like ECC certificates, because they perform faster, but they are orders of magnitude more secure than the plain old SSL encryption of yore. But frankly, that's just the SSL and TLS part of your to-do list. A true website security approach will have you applying comprehensive but now affordable strategies like scanning your website for vulnerabilities and malware, and even finding unknown SSL certificates. Now, along with these strategies to encrypt and validate your traffic and web applications, you'll want to use antivirus protection. Of course, we're going to talk about that. We are Symantec and the Norton brand, but you're going to also talk about it because you want to demonstrate in any way possible that your site is trustworthy. Not just secure, but trustworthy, because that sends a message to consumers that on this very public, very scary internet, it's safe on your site. Stop and think about this moment of time that you have to differentiate yourself from the competition. With everything I've covered in the first 3 sections of this webinar, it's going to be no shock that your website users would appreciate you conveying your ability to be trusted, because you can stand out as a trusted, secure site, again, on this very public, very threat-filled internet, and users really appreciate that. Of course, remember those first 3 sections I covered: cybercrime, ransomware, web attacks, as you move onward and upward from this webinar and this report. Now, keep your operating system and other software updated, because you never know when you just might be blocking the next WannaCry. And in email, because it's such a target-rich environment, delete any suspicious-looking email that they just might contain links or attachments, especially from familiar apps. For example, be very wary of any Microsoft email attachment that advises you to enable macros to view its content. And of course, back up. Backing up important data is the single most effective way of coming back from a ransomware infection. Because once you clean up the infection, you can simply restore your unaffected backup and get right back up to work. Okay, Angelique, that about wraps it up for our content today, so please bring us home.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for taking us through all of that really interesting information. I myself took a lot out of the really great discussion that we've had. Just a quick reminder, the infographic as well as the presentation, the reports is available to download in your attachments and link section that is on this page. Jeff, I know that we're running out of time. Do you feel that we'll have time for one question?
Fire away, please.
All right, perfect. So I do have a couple, and just a reminder to the audience, we will ensure that your questions are answered even if we do not get to them on this webinar today. But I've got one for you here, Jeff, and it's a good one. Why did attackers shift from sophisticated tactics to living off the land last year?
It's a very simple, there's two reasons. One is because the average user is so familiar with the tools that you can use in living off the land. It's email, it's Word documents, it's PDF, it's Excel, all the documents we use, all the applications we use every day. That's the first reason, because there's inherent trust in those things, so people just kind of go along with it. Oh yeah, I could open this document because it's a Word document and I trust Word. But there's a second reason too, and that is because it's free. You don't have to spend money and time and what have you building code for malware or ransomware or what have you. You can simply embed that in vehicles that already exist. Angie?
Wow. All right. Great. Thank you so much, Jeff. Really interesting. We really do have interesting questions. However, we are going to run out of time. So that does wrap up the content for today's briefing. However, even though our part of the briefing is concluded, yours is finally able to begin. Please do post suggestions or rate the discussion. We love to tune this discussion and other communications based on your collective feedback in order to help you get even more value from the next one. And please do browse our BrightTalk channel where you can check out all of our briefing webinars and more. Secondly, of course, we strongly encourage you to not wait until the next internet security threat discussion. Please actively continue this conversation with your security specialists, account managers, our SEs, and everyone else supporting you in our sales, product, and marketing organizations. And please feel free to drag your colleagues and peers along for the conversation. Do be on the lookout for a thank you email from Symantec for attending this discussion today, where we will provide you with the recording, full internet security threat reports, infographic, the works. It would all be shared with you. With that, thank you again for your time and your participation in today's discussion. On behalf of my cohorts and your presenter, Jeff, and equally on behalf of Symantec, the first original and leading SSL and TLS provider and your leader in true website security, goodbye, good day, and stay safe online.